The text message arrived at 3:47 a.m., right when my fever spiked to 102.3 degrees. Can't do this anymore. Your weakness disgusts me. We need to talk tomorrow, Kelsey. My wife of 8 years had just texted me her disgust while I lay shivering in our guest bedroom, quarantined with another flare-up of the autoimmune condition that had already cost me my teaching job and most of my dignity. But here's the thing about chronic illness. It gives you plenty of time to think, to observe, to notice things healthy people miss. Like how my wife Kelsey had been working late 3 nights a week at team-building exercises, or how she'd started buying new lingerie while simultaneously telling me I was too sick to touch, or how her gym membership suddenly included personal training sessions with Brandon Foster, the muscle-bound owner of CrossFit Sanctuary. My name is Alex Hanley, and I used to teach high school English before my body decided to wage war against itself. Now I'm a 38-year-old freelance copywriter who spends half his time in bed, fighting bone infections and joint inflammation that comes and goes like a sadistic tide. My wife Kelsey works in HR at a medical supply company, which is ironic since she shows zero human resources when dealing with her sick husband. The fever broke around dawn, leaving me drenched in sweat and clarity. I stumbled to the kitchen for water and found Kelsey already dressed for work, her blonde hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless. She looked like a magazine cover, while I resembled a zombie extra. "Feeling better?" she asked, without looking up from her phone. "Define better," I croaked. "I'm not hallucinating anymore, if that's what you mean." She rolled her eyes. "Always so dramatic, Alex. Maybe if you actually tried to get better instead of wallowing in self-pity, we wouldn't have these problems." "These problems? You mean my autoimmune disease?" "I mean your attitude. Bram says attitude is everything in recovery." Bram. There it was. Brandon Foster, the golden boy of our suburban social circle. Married to a sweet kindergarten teacher named Lisa, father of twin boys, owner of the most successful gym in town, and apparently my wife's new guru. "Since when do you and Bram discuss my medical condition?" I asked. Kelsey's cheeks flushed slightly. "He's just being supportive. Unlike some people, he doesn't think chronic illness is an excuse to give up on life." "Right. And these late-night team-building sessions at his gym. They're legitimate work events, Alex. Not everything revolves around your paranoia." She grabbed her keys and headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and we're having dinner with Zoe and Aaron tonight. Try to shower and look presentable. I'm tired of making excuses for you." The door slammed, leaving me alone with my suspicions and a growing certainty that my marriage was as diseased as my immune system. I spent the morning researching divorce lawyers and the afternoon setting up a new recording app on my phone. Call it paranoia, but 8 years of marriage to Kelsey had taught me to document everything. She had a gift for rewriting history, making herself the victim in every scenario. That evening, our friends Zoe Martinez and Aaron Walsh arrived for dinner. Zoe worked with Kelsey in HR and had the social awareness of a sledgehammer. Aaron ran a local boutique and treated gossip like currency. They were Kelsey's closest friends and my least favorite people. "Alex," Zoe squealed as she hugged me. "You look so much better. Kelsey said you were practically dying last week." "Just a flare-up," I said. "Nothing that dramatic." "Well, you know what they say," Aaron chimed in. "When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Maybe you should try Bram's boot camp. He's worked miracles with other people." Kelsey shot her a warning look. "Alex isn't ready for that level of physical activity." "I'm standing right here," I pointed out. "I can speak for myself." "Can you?" Kelsey's voice carried an edge. "Because lately, all I hear are excuses." Dinner proceeded with forced cheerfulness and passive-aggressive comments. I played the dutiful husband, serving wine and clearing plates while the women discussed their social lives. My phone sat in my shirt pocket, recording everything. "So, Kelsey," Zoe said over dessert, "how are those personal training sessions going?" Kelsey's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "They're going well. Very intensive, I bet," Aaron giggled. "Bram has such a reputation for hands-on instruction." "What kind of reputation?" I asked innocently. The three women exchanged glances. "He's just very dedicated to his clients," Kelsey said quickly. "Dedicated," Zoe repeated with a smirk. "That's one word for it." After our guests left, I retreated to my office while Kelsey cleaned up. My phone had captured every word, including several loaded comments about Bram's special attention and Kelsey's glow lately. Nothing explicitly incriminating, but enough to confirm my suspicions. I was reviewing the audio when I heard Kelsey on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice was low, intimate in a way she hadn't used with me in months. I know, baby, but we have to be careful. He's getting suspicious. No, he's too sick to do anything about it. I'll see you tomorrow night. My blood pressure spiked as I crept closer to the kitchen door, phone recording. God, I can't wait to get out of here, Kelsey continued. Living with him is like being married to a corpse. What? No, he can barely get out of bed, let alone satisfy a woman. You're so different, Bram. So strong and alive. I'd heard enough. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was mocking my illness while she did it. The betrayal cut deeper than any joint pain I'd ever experienced. But as I stood there in the hallway, listening to my marriage dissolve in real time, something unexpected happened. Instead of heartbreak, I felt a cold, calculating anger settle over me like armor. Kelsey wanted to play games? Fine. But she'd picked the wrong opponent. Chronic illness had taught me patience, strategy, and the art of long-term planning. I had nothing but time, and now I had motivation. The war was about to begin. The next morning, I woke up feeling better than I had in months. Not physically, my joints still ached like rusty hinges, but mentally, I had clarity and purpose. Kelsey had already left for work, probably for another team-building session with Bram. I spent the morning transcribing last night's phone conversation, creating a detailed timeline of suspicious behavior, and researching Brandon Foster. Social media made stalking remarkably easy. His Instagram was full of shirtless gym photos, motivational quotes, and pictures with various female clients in compromising positions, including several recent photos with my wife. One image particularly caught my attention. Kelsey and Bram at some kind of fitness event, his arm around her waist, her hand on his chest. The caption read, "Success is about surrounding yourself with winners. #teamwork, #dedication, #blessed." The comments were even more revealing. Several people had posted fire emojis and suggestive remarks. One user wrote, "Get a room already." Another said, "Lucky girl, Kelsey." My wife was flaunting her affair on social media while I was home sick. The audacity was almost impressive. I screenshotted everything and continued my investigation. Public records showed that Bram's gym was struggling financially despite its popularity. His house had a second mortgage, and he'd filed for business loan extensions twice in the past year. Interesting. Maybe his interest in Kelsey wasn't purely physical. Around noon, my friend Wes stopped by with lunch. Wesley Chen had taught chemistry at the same high school where I'd worked. He was one of the few people who'd stayed in touch after my diagnosis forced me to quit. "You look terrible," he said, setting down a bag of sandwiches. "Thanks. You really know how to cheer up an invalid." "I'm serious, Alex. You've lost weight, and there's something different about your eyes. You're scaring me." I debated how much to tell him, then decided honesty was the best policy. Wes listened without judgment as I explained my suspicions and played him the recording from last night. "Jesus Christ," he whispered when it finished. "I'm so sorry, man. What are you going to do?" "I'm still figuring that out, but I'm not going to just roll over and die, if that's what you're thinking. Maybe you should talk to a lawyer. Get ahead of this before it gets worse." "Oh, it's going to get much worse," I said, "but not for me." Wes looked concerned. "Alex, I know you're hurt, but don't do anything stupid. Kelsey's not worth ruining your life over." "Who says I'm ruining my life? Maybe I'm finally starting to live it." That afternoon, I received an unexpected visitor. Brianna Walsh, Aaron's younger sister, knocked on my door around 3 o'clock. Bree was 26, worked as a nurse at the local hospital, and had always been the black sheep of the Walsh family social circle. "Hey, Alex," she said nervously. "Can we talk?" I invited her in, curious about her visit. Bree had never been particularly friendly toward me, but she'd never been cruel either. She sat on the edge of my couch like she might bolt at any moment. "I heard about last night," she began. "Aaron told me about dinner, and some other things." "What kind of other things?" Bri fidgeted with her purse strap. "Look, I don't usually get involved in drama, but what they're doing isn't right. You deserve to know the truth." My pulse quickened. "What truth?" "Kelsey's been bragging about her affair for weeks. She and Zoe and Aaron talk about it constantly. They think it's hilarious that you don't know, or that you're too sick to do anything about it." The words hit like physical blows. She's been bragging about everything. The sex, the lies, how easy it is to fool you. She calls you her invalid, and jokes about trading up to a real man. Bri's voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry, Alex. I should have said something sooner." I sat in stunned silence, processing this new level of betrayal. It wasn't enough that Kelsey was cheating. She was humiliating me publicly while she did it. "Why are you telling me this?" I finally asked. "Because I've seen what chronic illness does to families. My mom had lupus before she died. The people who are supposed to love you shouldn't kick you when you're down. Bry met my eyes. And because Kelsey's planning something. What kind of something? I don't know exactly, but she's been asking Aaron about divorce lawyers and asset protection. She's also been talking to Bram about some kind of business opportunity. I think they're planning to take you for everything you've got, my inheritance from my grandparents, the life insurance policy, the small investment account I'd built during my teaching years. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to start over somewhere else. Thank you, I told Bry. You didn't have to warn me. Yes, I did. What they're doing is cruel and wrong. She stood to leave, then paused. Alex, whatever you're planning, be careful. Kelsey's vindictive when she's cornered. After Bree left, I sat alone in my living room, staring at the walls Kelsey and I had painted together during happier times. The woman I'd married was gone, replaced by a stranger who saw my illness as weakness to exploit rather than adversity to overcome together. But if Kelsey thought chronic illness had made me weak, she was about to learn how wrong she was. Pain had taught me endurance. Isolation had taught me self-reliance, and betrayal was about to teach me revenge. I opened my laptop and began planning phase 1 of my counterattack. If Kelsey wanted to play dirty, I'd show her what dirty really looked like. The gloves were coming off. Kelsey came home late that evening, claiming she'd been at a work dinner that ran long. Her hair was mussed, her lipstick gone, and she smelled like masculine cologne. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. "How was your day?" she asked, not really listening as she scrolled through her phone. "Productive," I said. "Bree stopped by earlier." Kelsey's head snapped up. "Bree Walsh, what did she want?" "Just checking on me. She's concerned about my health." "That's nice of her." Kelsey's voice was carefully neutral, but I caught the flash of worry in her eyes. "Yeah, she's a good person, unlike some people we know." "What's that supposed to mean?" I shrugged. "Nothing specific, just an observation about human nature." Kelsey stared at me for a long moment, then shook her head. "I'm going to bed. Try not to stay up all night coughing." "I'll do my best. Wouldn't want to disturb your beauty sleep." The next morning, I put my plan into motion. Step 1 was establishing credibility and gathering allies. I started with Dr. Sarah Kim, my rheumatologist, who'd been treating me for 3 years. "Alex," she said during my appointment, "your inflammation markers are actually improving. How are you feeling emotionally? Chronic illness can put tremendous strain on relationships." "Funny you should mention that," I said, and told her about Kelsey's behavior. Dr. Kim listened with professional concern. "I'm sorry to hear that. Unfortunately, I see this more often than I'd like. Some partners struggle with the long-term nature of chronic conditions. Would you be willing to write a letter documenting my condition and treatment history? I may need it for legal purposes." "Of course. And Alex? Don't let anyone make you feel ashamed of being sick. You didn't choose this." Step 2 involved a visit to my old colleague Marcus Thompson, who now taught at the community college. Marcus was also the coach of the local adult basketball league where Bram played. "Alex, good to see you, man. How are you holding up?" I gave him the abbreviated version of my situation. Marcus had always been perceptive, and he nodded knowingly. "I had my suspicions about Foster," he said. "Guy's got a reputation for crossing boundaries with married women. His own wife doesn't even come to his games anymore." "Really? Really?" "And between you and me, the league's been having issues with him. Unsportsmanlike conduct, arguing with refs, starting fights. We're considering kicking him out." "That's interesting. I might have some information that could help your decision." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "What kind of information?" I showed him the Instagram photos and played him a carefully edited portion of Kelsey's phone conversation, just the part where she discussed Bram's hands-on instruction in suggestive terms. "Jesus," Marcus muttered. "This guy's using his business to prey on married women. The league board needs to hear this." "I was hoping you'd say that." Step 3 was the most delicate. I needed to document Kelsey's affair without breaking any laws. Fortunately, she made it easy by being careless with her phone and computer. That evening, while she was in the shower, I quickly photographed several text message conversations between her and Bram. The messages were explicit, cruel, and legally admissible, since they were sent to a device on our shared phone plan. "Can't wait to get my hands on you again," read one from Bram. "Same here. Alex is having another episode, so he'll be drugged up and useless all weekend," Kelsey had replied. "Poor invalid. Maybe we should put him out of his misery," Bram wrote back, followed by laughing emojis. "Soon enough. My lawyer says I can take him for half of everything, plus alimony, since he's disabled. Then we can be together properly." I photographed 23 messages total, each one more damning than the last. They discussed intimate details of their relationship, mocked my illness, and outlined their plan to divorce me, and use my disability to maximize Kelsey's settlement. But the final message made my blood run cold. What if he doesn't agree to the divorce? Then we'll have to convince him. You know how unstable sick people can be. Sometimes they need professional help, if you know what I mean. They were planning to have me committed, use my illness and their lies to paint me as mentally unstable, then steal everything while I was locked away in a psychiatric facility. I stared at the phone screen, hands shaking with rage. These people weren't just betraying me. They were plotting to destroy my entire life. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated their target. I spent the rest of the week gathering more evidence and setting up the first phase of my revenge. The beauty of chronic illness is that people expect you to be home, quiet, and invisible. It's the perfect cover for planning a war. By Friday, I was ready to fire the opening shot. I started small. Bram's gym had a Google reviews page where clients shared their experiences. I created several fake accounts and began posting detailed reviews about his unprofessional conduct with married clients and inappropriate personal relationships that compromised the business environment. Within hours, other people began commenting and sharing their own stories. Apparently, I wasn't the only husband who'd noticed Bram's special attention to wives and girlfriends. Next, I anonymously sent the Instagram photos to the local CrossFit corporate office, along with a complaint about franchise owners who violated professional boundaries with clients. Corporate gyms took liability issues seriously, especially when marriage wrecking was involved. Finally, I forwarded the evidence to Marcus for the basketball league board meeting scheduled for the following Tuesday. By Sunday evening, Bram's phone was ringing constantly. His gym's rating had dropped from 4.8 stars to 2.3 stars. Corporate had called for a formal review of his franchise agreement, and the basketball league had suspended him pending investigation. Kelsey was furious. Someone's spreading lies about Bram online. It's character assassination. Really? I asked innocently. What kind of lies? Horrible things about him and his female clients. Everyone knows it's not true. Everyone? Everyone who matters, she snapped. This is probably some jealous ex-girlfriend trying to ruin his reputation. Or maybe it's just karma, I suggested. Kelsey stared at me suspiciously. What do you know about this? Nothing. I'm just saying that actions have consequences. People who behave badly usually get what's coming to them eventually. You're acting strange, Alex. Stranger than usual. Maybe I'm feeling better. Amazing what a little clarity can do for your perspective. That night, Kelsey made several frantic phone calls to Bram, Zoe, and Aaron. I recorded every conversation from my bedroom next door. They were panicking, trying to figure out who was behind the attack on Bram's reputation. It has to be someone who knows about us, Kelsey whispered into her phone. But who would care enough to do this? If only she knew she was talking to her husband's bedroom wall. Phase 1 was complete. Bram's reputation was damaged, his business was under scrutiny, and his recreational activities were suspended. But this was just the beginning. Phase 2 would be much more personal. Monday morning brought the first real consequences of my campaign. Kelsey's phone rang at 6 a.m., Bram calling in a panic. They're shutting down the gym pending investigation, I heard him say through her phone's speaker. Corporate says I violated my franchise agreement by engaging in inappropriate relationships with clients. This is insane, Kelsey replied, not bothering to leave the bedroom. Can't you fight it? With what money? My lawyer says I need 50 grand just to start fighting the franchise termination, and the basketball league officially kicked me out last night. What are we going to do? I don't know. Maybe we need to accelerate our timeline. I lay perfectly still, recording every word. My wife was discussing strategy with her lover 6 feet away from me, apparently confident that my illness made me harmless. After the call ended, Kelsey got dressed and left without saying goodbye. I waited 30 minutes, then called in sick to my freelance client, and began phase 2. First, I visited my lawyer, Janet Rodriguez, and presented her with everything I'd gathered. Janet was a sharp woman in her 50s, who specialized in divorce cases involving complex medical issues. This is quite comprehensive, she said, reviewing my evidence. Your wife and her boyfriend have been remarkably careless about documenting their intentions. What are my options? Several. We can file for divorce citing adultery, which gives you grounds to contest any alimony claims. The text messages about having you committed could constitute conspiracy and fraud. And if they've been using marital assets to fund their relationship, we can demand restitution. I want to hit them as hard as legally possible. Janet raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Scorched earth divorces can get expensive and messy. They were planning to steal everything and have me locked up in a mental hospital. I think messy is appropriate. Fair enough. I'll draw up the papers today. Next, I drove to CrossFit Sanctuary, which was indeed closed pending investigation. But Bram's personal car was in the parking lot, and I could see him inside, apparently packing up equipment. I parked across the street and waited. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, Kelsey's Honda pulled up. She got out and ran to the gym entrance, looking around nervously before Bram let her in. Perfect. I had them both in one place. I walked across the street and tried the door. It was unlocked. Inside, I found Kelsey and Bram in a heated discussion surrounded by boxes and gym equipment. We need to figure out who's doing this, Bram was saying. Someone with access to information about us. Someone like me? I interrupted from the doorway. They both spun around, faces going white. Kelsey recovered first. Alex, what are you doing here? Thought I'd check out my wife's favorite workout spot. Nice place. Very intimate. Bram stepped forward, trying to look intimidating. You need to leave. This is private property. Actually, it's a business establishment that my wife has been frequenting for months. I have every right to see where my money's been going. Your money? Kelsey laughed harshly. What money? You haven't had a real job in 2 years. My disability payments, my freelance income, my inheritance, the money you've been spending on personal training sessions and new lingerie. I don't know what you think you know. I know everything. I pulled out my phone and played the recording from Friday night. Their voices filled the empty gym. Poor invalid. Maybe we should put him out of his misery. The color drained from both their faces. You recorded us, Kelsey whispered. I recorded you in my own home, discussing your affair and your plans to defraud me. Perfectly legal, by the way. Bram tried to regain control. Look, man, this is between you and your wife. I'm just what? An innocent victim. You've been using your business to seduce married women, then plotting to help them steal from their husbands. That's conspiracy to commit fraud. You can't prove anything. I showed them the photographs of their text messages. Actually, I can prove everything. Your discussions about having me committed, your plans to take my assets, your detailed descriptions of your sexual encounters in this gym. Kelsey's face crumpled. Alex, please, we can work this out. Work it out? You called me an invalid who should be put out of his misery. You mocked my illness while planning to have me institutionalized. What exactly should we work out? I was angry. I didn't mean, you meant every word. The question is, what are you going to do about it now? Bram stepped between us. Are you threatening us? I'm informing you. Divorce papers will be served tomorrow. The evidence of your affair and fraud conspiracy has been turned over to my lawyer. And I've shared your unprofessional conduct with your corporate office, your creditors, and anyone else who might be interested. You son of a bitch, Bram snarled. You think you're so smart, but you're just a sick, pathetic loser who can't keep his woman satisfied? Maybe. But I'm a sick, pathetic loser with excellent documentation skills and a lot of time on my hands. How's your business doing, Bram? Still have those corporate meetings this week. His face went red. You ruined everything. My gym, my reputation, my life. No, you ruined your life when you decided to prey on vulnerable marriages. I just made sure everyone knew about it. Kelsey started crying. Alex, I'm sorry. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through our problems. Our problems. Kelsey, you don't have problems. You have consequences. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Bram, you might want to call your wife. I sent her copies of all your text messages this morning. She seemed very interested in your extracurricular activities. As I walked back to my car, I could hear them arguing behind me. Kelsey was sobbing, Bram was cursing, and both were realizing that their carefully laid plans had just collapsed around them. But I wasn't done yet. Phase 3 was about to begin, and it would be the most satisfying part of my revenge. The real fireworks were just getting started. The divorce papers were served Tuesday morning, while Kelsey was having coffee with Zoe and Aaron at their favorite cafe. I know this because Bree texted me a photo of Kelsey's face when the process server found her. She went completely white, Bree wrote, then started screaming at the server like it was his fault. Zoe and Aaron looked mortified. Perfect. Public humiliation was exactly what I'd been hoping for. By noon, Kelsey was calling me frantically. Alex, we need to talk. This is insane. Talk to my lawyer. I'm not talking to any lawyer. I'm talking to my husband. Your husband died when you decided to mock his illness and plan his commitment to a mental institution. You're talking to your soon-to-be ex-husband. You can't do this. I'll fight you on everything. With what money? Your boyfriend's gym is closed. His franchise is terminated. And his wife filed for divorce yesterday. Good luck funding a legal battle on your HR salary. Line went quiet. His wife filed for divorce? Apparently, Lisa Foster didn't appreciate the text messages where Bram called her a boring suburban mom and compared her unfavorably to his various conquests. Who knew teachers could be so vindictive when properly motivated? Kelsey hung up on me. Wednesday brought more good news. Marcus called to update me on the basketball league situation. The board voted unanimously to ban Foster permanently, he said. Apparently, 3 other wives came forward with stories about his inappropriate behavior. One woman said he tried to get her to leave her husband for him. Really? Really? And here's the best part. His business insurance dropped him. Seems they don't cover personal conduct violations that result in franchise termination. Thursday was even better. Janet called with an update on the legal front. Kelsey's lawyer withdrew from the case, she reported. Apparently, your wife couldn't afford the retainer after all. She's requesting a public defender for the divorce proceedings. A public defender? For a divorce? It's unusual, but not unheard of when fraud allegations are involved. The prosecutor's office is also reviewing the evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud. They're considering filing criminal charges. Criminal charges? Planning to have someone falsely committed for financial gain is a serious felony. If they can prove intent, both your wife and her boyfriend could face prison time. I felt a moment of genuine surprise. I'd wanted revenge, but I hadn't expected criminal prosecution. What happens now? We wait. The divorce will proceed regardless, but criminal charges would significantly impact any settlement negotiations. Friday brought the most satisfying development yet. Kelsey came home in tears, having been placed on administrative leave from her job. They say I'm under investigation for conduct unbecoming, she sobbed. Someone sent HR copies of all my text messages, including the ones about you. Imagine that. This is destroying my life, Alex. My career, my reputation, everything. Now you know how it feels. I never meant for things to go this far. I was just frustrated. Living with your illness, watching you give up on everything. I felt trapped. So you decided to trap me instead, in a mental hospital, while you stole everything I owned. That was Bram's idea. I never would have gone through with it. The text messages suggest otherwise. Kelsey collapsed onto the couch, makeup ruined, hair disheveled. What do you want from me? What will it take to end this? I sat across from her, studying the woman I'd once loved. I want you to understand something, Kelsey. For 2 years, you watched me struggle with chronic illness. You saw me lose my job, my independence, my sense of self-worth. And instead of supporting me, you decided to kick me while I was down. I know. I'm sorry. You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. That's not true, isn't it? Because when I was at my sickest, when I needed you most, you were planning my destruction. You weren't just cheating on me. You were laughing about it with your friends. You weren't just leaving me. You were trying to steal everything and have me committed. Kelsey said nothing. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to sign whatever divorce agreement my lawyer presents. You're going to accept whatever settlement I'm willing to offer. And you're going to disappear from my life forever. And if I don't, then I release the rest of the evidence. The recordings I haven't shared yet. The photographs. The detailed timeline of your affair. I'll make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what kind of person you are. You already have. Kelsey, what I've released so far is nothing compared to what I have in reserve. Trust me. You don't want to find out what total warfare looks like. She stared at me with a mixture of fear and hatred. I don't even know who you are anymore. I'm the same person I always was. You just never bothered to pay attention. The following Monday, Kelsey signed the divorce papers without contest. She agreed to a minimal settlement, waived any claim to alimony, and accepted full responsibility for the breakdown of our marriage. Bram Foster was arrested Tuesday morning on charges of conspiracy to commit fraud and attempted extortion. His wife had provided additional evidence of his financial schemes, including attempts to manipulate other clients into fraudulent insurance claims and disability scams. Wednesday brought news that Kelsey had been fired from her job and was moving back in with her parents in another state. Thursday, I received a call from the prosecutor's office. They were offering Kelsey a plea deal, probation, and community service in exchange for her testimony against Bram. What do you think? Janet asked me. I think justice comes in many forms, I replied. If she's willing to tell the truth about what they planned, that's enough for me. Friday afternoon, exactly 2 weeks after I'd launched my campaign of revenge, I sat in my living room now, and reflected on everything that had happened. My chronic illness hadn't magically disappeared. My joints still ached, my energy was still limited, and I still faced an uncertain medical future. But something fundamental had changed. For 2 years, I'd let my disease define me. I'd accepted other people's pity, their dismissal, their assumption that being sick made me weak and helpless. I'd internalized their judgment and started believing it myself. But revenge had taught me something important. Chronic illness might limit my body, but it didn't have to limit my mind, my will, or my capacity for strategic thinking. Kelsey and Bram had seen a sick, vulnerable man and assumed he'd be an easy target. They'd confused physical limitation with mental weakness, medical dependency with emotional helplessness. They'd been catastrophically wrong. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was Bree. "Hey, Alex, I heard Kelsey moved out. How are you doing?" "Better than I expected. Thanks for warning me about their plans. I owe you." "You don't owe me anything. You just proved that being sick doesn't mean being powerless." "No," I agreed, "it doesn't. So what's next for you?" I looked around my empty house, thinking about the future. "I'm not sure yet, but for the first time in 2 years, I feel like I have options." "Good. You deserve better than what they put you through." After we hung up, I opened my laptop and began writing. Not copy for clients, but something personal. A story about illness and betrayal, about underestimation and revenge, about the difference between physical weakness and moral strength. Maybe I'd publish it someday. Maybe I wouldn't, but writing it felt like the final step in reclaiming my life from people who'd tried to destroy it. 6 months later, I received a letter from the state prison where Bram was serving his sentence for fraud conspiracy. He wanted to apologize, to make amends, to explain his actions. I threw the letter away without reading it. Some people deserve forgiveness. Others deserve to live with the consequences of their choices. Bram Foster had made his choice when he decided to prey on vulnerable marriages and plot against sick people. Kelsey had made hers when she chose cruelty over compassion, betrayal over loyalty. I'd made mine when I decided to fight back. And I'd discovered that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's proving that you're stronger than anyone thought possible, including yourself.